Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Denise Bellil, and I'm a serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. Welcome to the It's All Good show. Look who's here for a chat. Today I have Marcia Domecq, and she's a psychotherapist, and she'll be my guest. But first, let me talk to you a little bit about this show. It's All Good. It's my favorite cup. It's all good. And the reason why I call it It's All Good, because it's my way of living. It's my philosophy. And that's the way I live my life pretty much every day. So what does that mean, it's all good? Well, if something negative happened to you 5 seconds ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, don't sweat on the small stuff, even if it's big stuff, because guess what? It's the past and you can't change it. So what can you say about it now? Hey, it's all good. And what about things in the future? You can't really foresee exactly what's going to happen in the future. You can get prepared, you can plan, you can have a goal of what you want to achieve, and you can work towards that goal. But you never know how things are going to turn out. Sometimes life takes you in a direction that you don't know. So when things don't happen the way you want it to happen, then you say it's all good. Because no matter what, there's always a gift in every situation. So today, as I said, I'm really excited to have Marcia. I'm going to have her come now into the room. So here she comes. It'll take a second, but I'm so happy to have her today. As I mentioned, she's a psychotherapist, and our topic today will be how not to lose your mind in the batshit crazy world. And don't we know that we're living in a batshit crazy world? So I'm super happy to have you here, Marcia. So please introduce yourself and welcome to the It's All Good show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Denise. Thank you for this opportunity. You have such a lovely community here. Denise and I actually met through a mutual training and realized that we both have kind of a similar interest, and that is all about like, how do we navigate this new world? Like, none of us were prepared for any of this. And so I thank you, Denise, for the opportunity to be able to share all of this with the world and allow me to come on as well. So I appreciate that. That's so great. Yeah, so I am a psychotherapist during the day, entrepreneur by night. So I've been working in the field of mental health for the last 30 years, and I've been helping with people with anxiety, depression, kind of all the things. But I'm limited in the ability to really reach the masses, right? And so I just have my current clients during the day, and I don't do psychotherapy as an entrepreneur, but what I am interested in is helping people navigate this whole different world. And what I'm finding is that our typical ways of coping with stress need to change.
Yeah.
We need to have a different model to be able to follow. And I guess the one good thing that kind of came out of the pandemic is if you didn't have anxiety or depression before, you probably have an understanding of it now. And the difficulty is there's so many people that just have no idea how to navigate this, right?
Yeah.
Including the supervisors, including the teachers, including like no one had ever signed up for this. And people just find themselves lost and they're not quite sure how to get out. And the opportunity that we have right now is we have a little bit of a reprieve, right? In terms of the virus, in terms of politics, and in terms of like all the things, we have this little opportunity to start getting strong because we know it's coming again, right? We're going into the flu season, we're going into politics season, we're going kind of into the things. And so the better that we can like equip ourselves for being able to handle what we know is coming, we're gonna have a foot up in a way to be able to like keep our sanity. And so that's why I say the batshit crazy world. We just have not navigated this before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to give your audience some tips on how to kind of navigate all of this. If you think about if you were to do like a timeline and think over time the amount of stressors that we have had to deal with, back in the 20s, right, there wasn't very many social contacts. So maybe you were in a classroom of 6 or 7 students in a small little school. Maybe you would have a neighbor that would come over once or twice. The number of contacts weren't very large. So it's going to look pretty like small in terms of number of contacts on a line graph. And then if you go over time, of course, all of a sudden we had social media, right? Right. And so if you would think about when you're looking at social, the number, like each time that screen changes, it is stimuli that's coming at us. And so we are like really engulfed in a lot of stimuli. And so if you were to look at that graph, all of a sudden you're going to, get into the 80s, 90s, and it's going to be like way up here.
Sure.
And our ability within our body, the limit is like here. And that was before the pandemic. And so if you're feeling lost and alone and not knowing how to like navigate this, you are not alone. Most people already have all of those stressors, and then you throw another and another and another on it, and we're at a loss. And so I got a few things here for you that might be able to help. I've kind of nicknamed it doc, so it's easy to remember, right? And so the very first part of it has to do with deep breathing. So one of the things that we know about deep breathing is that it is as effective as some of the short-term anxiety medications. So if you find yourself in that state of like, I just cannot operate, yes, exactly. It's something that you can do. And what's nice about deep breathing is you can do it from anywhere, right? You can be in a waiting room, waiting for an appointment. Say maybe you're kind of nervous about actually going to a doc or something like that. You can do it without a bunch of people even knowing what you're doing. And so kind of a fun way to be able to do it is to think about your 2 favorite colors. So Denise, for you, what are your 2 favorite colors?
Let's say it's pink and blue.
Love that. Pink and blue. So what you want to do for deep breathing is you want to be able to take a breath in through your nose. And as you're doing that, I want you to think of that favorite color of pink, and you're going to be filling your body full of pink. Okay, so we'll kind of try that together. So, and then on the exhale, you actually are going to be blowing that out, and you're going to be filling the room full of your second favorite color, which is blue, right? And you're going to be doing it to the count of 4 and 7. Okay?
So that's something people can do even if they're in a big room, because they don't have to be like,
yes,
they can
absolutely, yes.
That can be done, without really being noticed. So
yeah, it's almost, if you think of it, kind of almost like a sigh, right?
Yeah.
People don't know. They might think you're bored, but you're actually doing like deep breathing, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll go ahead and practice this. So you breathe in and you're filling that body, and we're going to count to 4. So basically 2, 3, 4, and blow out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the reason that you want to go to 7, 7 is longer than your breath in. And the reason that is important is when you're exhaling longer than what you're inhaling, it is physiologically slowing down your heart rate. Because that's one of the things that happens, right? When we're anxious, our heart starts going really fast, and they're like, oh my God, am I having a heart attack? What's the thing, right?
And then you have rapid breathing that is like psychotic, right? In and out.
Yes. Yeah, and the way I diagnose anxiety all the time, and the way that you tell, what's the difference between, we hear of anxiety and then we also hear of panic attacks. What's kind of the difference? And the difference really has to do with the breath. Like if you're like hyperventilating, that's a panic attack. That's a panic attack. The nice thing about anxiety is if you can start telling your warning signs, it kind of has, it's kind of like if you think of a hill and then it comes down.
Yeah.
We often, when we're in a panic attack or having high anxiety, we're feeling like that panic's just going to keep going, right?
Yeah.
And that's what scares us, right? But no, there's always a height to it, and it comes down. The hard thing, the thing that's difficult is if you get too far up your panic, some of these skills aren't going to work. Have you ever had that happen where it's like, oh my God, I tried deep breathing, I tried like all the things and it didn't work?
You just can't get control.
Yes. Yeah. That's where medication can be helpful. And so that's
when you
why
reach your threshold, you're above what you can handle on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why literature and research shows that the combination of medication and skills are kind of the combination. However, if you can catch that anxiety when it's low, when you start like really noticing that something's off, at any point along the way, you can match it with skills, and then you don't have to go through those high extremes.
Yeah.
And kind of the same is true with depression. If you can like learn those warning signs and then be able to implement a skill at that point, then you're not having to worry about some of those deep ones. But if it gets too high, too low, that is when you want to call a psychiatrist. That isn't when you want group coaching and learning the things. You really want to get someone that can help.
So I guess what you just mentioned, it's all about, the first thing would be to develop awareness.
Yes.
Awareness of your symptom. So you've been there before, you know what are your triggers, you know when you're going up on the deep end, and going up to the sky. And then once you're aware of those, initially, I guess people can't do it, they can't control it. But as you become more aware of it, the way I understand it is that then you can do, you say, oh, I'm on my threshold here, I'm gonna go to the ceiling, and like ping, 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 blue, 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 before you hit the walls, before you get crazy, right? Just take control over your emotion.
Yeah. And, kind of what is happening at that time in the brain. So if you take your fingers and if you put them inside your ear and point up,
I can't hear you.
In your brain, you're pointing to your amygdala. It's this area of your brain that, point up. And then if you picture in your brain where that would be, that is where the amygdala is located.
So and what the finger would meet, that's where the finger would meet, right?
Yeah. So if you're thinking like it's like in here.
Okay.
So if you point up, it's pointing to that place in your brain. And so what happens with the amygdala is when you're under stress, that's the part of the brain that it hits first. And your amygdala is all the reaction part, right? So even like once you learn skills, you might find you're still having a physiological reaction, like, right?
Yeah.
So what happens after it reaches the amygdala is it goes to the frontal cortex. The frontal cortex is your thinking brain, right? That's the part that's going to hold all the skills, but it's going to hit that amygdala first. So if you find yourself, oh my gosh, I learned these skills, but I still have like kind of that startle reaction when new stressors come, it's just a physiological thing. All you need to do is calm yourself and say, it's going to hit the thinking brain, but I might have a little bit of a response at first.
Okay. And eventually that will reduce, right?
Yes, because you're really reconnecting the brain. There's a little thing that's called a myelin sheath that anything that's repeated gets thicker. And so the message goes quicker. And so, yes, over time, it's going to be a lot easier than when you're very first like learning how to do this. So,
the way I describe it when I talk about it and often here is I said, like you're building neural pathway. Right? You're just building like strength in your brain, like the connection between two action and reaction. And then the one you don't use kind of disintegrate and go away, right?
Yeah. And there's also, if you yourself have been in trauma, if you grew up in a childhood of trauma, that myelin sheath is pretty thick when it comes to anger. It's pretty thick when it comes to a lot of like ill adaptive coping skills. And so you really are having to relearn, having to rewire, having to have your brain learn how to do that. So what I suggest is go ahead and practice when you're not stressed, right? Just keep like if you, right? So if you can wake up in the morning,
to do preemptive action. right? Like, say,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
I remember the last time, because we do that with positive intelligence, we go back into time where we
nice.
were angry or upset or going off the roof. And so, okay, the last time I did that, I remember reacting this way. And now I visualize myself in that same situation, but not reacting that way and taking the deep breath. And,
Yes. Yeah,
so
there's something that,
replaying the
yeah,
event, but in the way
replay.
you want it to happen.
Yeah, that's very similar to what we call a chain analysis, which is looking at, okay, here was the stress that happened, right? And my reaction to that stress. What were the things that came right before? And
Mm-hmm.
what are the things that came right after? And so when you learn skills, you're actually able to put skills in at any point. So you can relook at stuff like how you acted in the past, like, oh my gosh, well, I could have used a skill here or there, or I could have used a skill while that was happening. But even if you go ahead and have like a high reaction to a stressor, you can also do that afterwards, because what do? We often go into the guilt, the shame, like all the things, right?
Yeah,
Like, I should have
of
known, I
course,
should have done better, I should have
we
used deep breathing, right? But you can still not go into some of those pathways that we're used to doing in terms of like self-talk.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of step one.
Okay, so now
Uh,
we did the D, so I guess it's a O, the next one.
yeah, and with the deep breathing, feel free, like if you have only a few minutes, just do the deep breathing. But there's a lot of people really working on meditation, relaxation, using phone apps to do all the things. And so, like, really feel free if you have time to give it some space. Go from deep breathing into some meditation, into some relaxation, into some things. So
And
that's the
meditation
deep.
doesn't have to be an hour; it could be just 5 minutes.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like, I know I had worked at a place where they mandated at 3 o'clock every afternoon, staff needed to stop and come together as a group for 15 minutes and do deep breathing. And,
Wow.
3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's usually when productivity starts dipping, right? We're getting tired. We're ready for home. We're ready for all the things. Just 15 minutes, even 5, if staff only had 5 minutes, made such a difference. And I'm sure productivity, if they would have measured that, I'm sure that
Probably
would
would
have
have
gone
been
up.
up to,
So it
yeah.
was really nice. We went into a room, we turned the lights down low, we were together, all the things. So it was great. So
Nice.
yes, that's step one. That's D for deep breathing. Um, Step two is observe. So it's docs, right? So D is the deep breathing, O is observe. Observe and assess where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
So um, if you think of like a lake scene, where are you at? Like, are you in the water drowning, right? Are you in trouble? Please, if you are in trouble, reach out for a therapist. I guess one of my kind of pet peeves is there's a lot of people helping others with trauma, with other things that aren't talking to people about, if you're in that much trouble, you really need to not just, don't just do coaching. Like, you need to get like a therapist. You need to get
Yeah.
somebody that can really help, right? Are you maybe on the boat? Like, you're doing okay, you're on the boat, but like, oh, there's some big waves coming, right? Um, are you on the shore? It's like, I just building my skills. I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Maybe I'm in the lighthouse and I'm just looking out for others. So kind of figure out, like, where are you in that process, and
Uh-huh.
set a goal for wherever you're at. And so that goal is going to change over time. So maybe you look at your things and it's like, oh God, I am in financial stress. Like, I need to do something about, and just pick one. It's way too overwhelming to have all these different goals, and have really little tiny baby steps towards your goal. And so that's part of what I'm going to be helping others be able to do within a community, is be able to assess, like, where are you at, and how can we help you with whatever that goal is that you choose. So that's
Yeah.
the O.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And so the C in docs, so the third step is community. And so the days of trying to do this alone, is just not working. Like, you really need to build a community. So it's so beautiful that Denise is building a community, and I'm building the community, that we're able to do this together. So one of the things that that I've done is every Saturday night I have a Facebook group where we do self-care, because self-care is really at the crux of all of this. The more that we can be doing self-care, the more that we're able to like get through the things, right? And so what I do is I have some type of free item in your house that we put together that's self-care. Sometimes I'll bring in suggestions, ideas about different products and that kind of stuff as well, but we always have one homemade item. So I make the item there during the live, we're able to interact and have fun. And it's really a time where, you know, you kick the husband out, you kick the kids out, and you just carve out a half hour for yourself. And who of us do that? Like, we get so good at helping others.
I know.
We're really horrible at helping ourselves, right? And so if you can just make that my me time, my special time, you know that you have that carved in your week for every a half hour every week. So that is the C, that's the community part of it. And I can get you all of the information for how to be able to connect with me and be part of that community. In the future, I will be putting together some group coaching. So I'm just in the this is actually kind of the launch. So I thank you, Denise, for helping with the launch of this. Yeah, and it'll be really great. It'll be a good time.
So tell me about, you said that you have a collaborative book called Life by Design. So tell me about that book.
Yes, thank you so much. So yeah, it's an Amazon bestseller. It's my first book. It's a compilation book. They actually now have kind of coined it the book for the living, because there's so many stories. So I am one of 22 authors in that book, and we all have stories of overcoming adversity. So for myself, I was under a lot of heavy work stress, and found out that I was very sick. So I literally went from not being sick at all to overnight getting sick, which led to Mayo Clinic visits. Yes, I had an unrelated non-cancerous brain tumor. And so I had to make the choice between surgery or a one-time radiation. So in the book, Life by Design, it actually brings you into that doctor's office where I had the neurosurgeons coming in and being able to give me the results of the MRI. And I had to literally make a choice, and both of them had horrible side effects. I had to make the choice within like 10 minutes of what they wanted to schedule for me. So that book will bring you into that. And then I had...
So don't give us what you've done, because then we're gonna go read it, right?
Yeah. So it just brings you into that story. And then there was a lot of other things that happened that were related to stress. So the brain tumor wasn't related to stress, but all of the other neurological things that I went through were. And they had medication, but I was really worried about side effects. So they ended up diagnosing psoriasis, small fiber peripheral neuropathy. I had a rare genetic neurological disorder called myotonia congenita. And I had 24-hour tremors. They were internal tremors, so I helped them, but you couldn't see them. And literally I was back and forth for about 1.5 years at Mayo Clinic, and they could not solve it. And so I had to dive deep into nutrition and to a lot of other kinds of ways of treatment. So I did all the things: physical therapy, occupational therapy, neurology, and actually was able to reverse all of them.
Wow, that's
and so part of my mission is being able to help people that have been under so much stress that it's affected them physically. And I have a lot of different products and things that are aimed exactly at that. And the freebie that you guys will be getting today does have a link for some of those products. And so you can use your self-care, but then also if you're at the place where it really has affected your physical health, there's options for you there as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that'll be in the show notes or in the comments. So
Yeah.
make sure you go
Sounds
check
good.
it out, people. Well, that's
Beautiful.
great. So, so we'll share also your
Yeah.
Facebook group, yeah, your Facebook personal Facebook page. But then you can orient people once they ask for friendship and all that. You can orient them towards your group for the self care on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And so that's amazing. So, do you have any last tip for people that are listening?
Yeah, sure. I think my main message to all of you is I didn't have a roadmap. Like
Mm.
I had to figure this stuff out myself, and I now have a roadmap for you, and you do not have to do this alone. When I was in that office, the doctor's office, and the 5 neurosurgeons were coming in, I was there for a week of testing, and my family offered to come, but they live far away, and I was like, no, I got my big girl pants on, I can do this, right?
Yeah.
But I tell you, by Friday, I wasn't expecting that the tumor would have grown, and so I'm looking around trying to find a friendly face, and there's literally no one there.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to be at that place where there's nobody there, there's no roadmap, feeling alone. And so I want you to know there's a community here for you. There's people there for you. Please, please share this video. People are lost. And so we do have something that can help them and not make them feel alone.
Absolutely. I mean, living in stress for me also, like being a serenity expert, for me, stress is my nemesis, right? Like
Yes.
for
Yes.
me, I do everything I can to help people get rid of their stress, whichever way works best for them. And because stress is the number one killer, never mind COVID or anything else. I mean, it's stress. Like if you're stressed out, you have a lot more chance to catch COVID or any other disease or illness than if you're not stressed. If you live like a serene life, a positive thinking and healthy eating and living, your chance of getting sick in any way, shape, or form are like minute compared to, when you live in a high level of stress. So if any way you can to eliminate your stress, contact people like Marcia and myself and get help, because we can assist you to eliminate the stress that you have in your life, for sure.
Yeah, it absolutely is toxic. 2 years ago, I was the healthiest person ever, and literally it changed on a dime. And so we
Yeah,
are
you
not
never know.
promised tomorrow. We are we are not, and it's a whole different world. We just need a different way of being able to navigate it, and that's what I have for you. So
Wonderful. So thank you so much, Marcia. It's such a
yeah,
pleasure to
absolutely.
have you here with me today. And so please, put comment in the chat or send us information. If you want more information, contact us. We'll be happy to help you. And until next time, be kind to one another. I'll be here again next week, Monday, noon, like every Monday. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.